3.
Back to the King's Report this Friday, November 10th, 2017. Second King Report live from the Cheonggyegung Palace studio to all the kings and queens of the Kingdom of God. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are here with Dan Gray. Of course, Dan, thank you so much for coming back on the show. Dan started his political journey with Watergate. Back then, he was a progressive, but over the decades since, year after year, issue after issue, the movement left him. Dan still fights for the Constitution and Bill of Rights, for equal protection under law, and since he's now in his late 50s, for our historical heritage. Dan's been involved in NRA for over 25 years, successfully sued SEIU in federal court, works closely to Right to Work and Right to Life organizations and activists. He's been a columnist for Watchdog, The Washington Times, and has spoken passionately on radio, in person, or on just about every liberty issue that there is. Dan works behind the scenes, providing guidance for groups on just about every arc of the liberty spectrum, including militias and many local anti-corruption efforts in the Commonwealth and beyond. He helped start a national tax reform think tank last year and counts his efforts with newcomers to the movement as those he's most proud of. Last year, Dan was Schuylkill County Chair for the Cruz campaign here in Pennsylvania, and has been both surprised and pleased with the performance of President Donald Trump so far. Dan, thank you so much for joining us again this morning. And what a beautiful morning it is.
Good morning, Pastor Sean.
Hey,
well, it's a cold morning.
It's cold, but it's great. Hey, it's time to go camping now.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm ready. I got my bag packed. I always keep that go bag, you know what I mean?
You got your bug-up bag, right? Hey, you got your bug-up bag. Nice. Now, there's so many things going on. Let's just show a brief clip. This is the newest video from Paul Just Watson, a young millennial who is just, every video of his goes viral on alternative news. And this is about the mass public temper tantrum caught on camera. Let's go to Paul Joseph Watson.
2016. I mean, it's just such low-hanging fruit. It's so cliched at this point.
Tonight, thousands of people in cities across the country will scream helplessly at the sky 1 year after the election of President Donald Trump.
All right, then, one more time.
3, 2, 1.
Look at these children. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Yes. Look at them. Look at them. They're pulling their hair out. Look at that. Look at 50-year-old women pulling their hair out. There you go. Hey, in New York City, I guess they're being activists.
Me of something. What could it be?
Shout out his name.
Right.
People on the right who actually lost their minds over Obama, but there's a lot of people on the left who just can't seem to deal with all this stuff rationally.
Well, it's interesting. I guess this is their way of catharsis and just trying to release
their emotional frustration and angst upon the universe to send out vibrations.
Well, you know, there's something to that. You and I both believe, even though I'm Jewish and you're Christian, we both believe in the power of prayer. I think the power of thinking and feeling does have an effect of some kind. Right. But I'm not sure what kind of effect this inchoate sort of unformed rage has. It's not really an organizing technique. It doesn't really convince others. And
banshee howling, I believe, there's a technical
banshees,
term.
Yeah, that's sort of the Irish term. In Korean, is there a version of the banshee? Is there some kind of demon that screams and
I don't know. Is
there hysterical?
Is there a Korean mythological spirit that screams and shouts and votes Democrat? Okay. All right. Let's get back to this video. We're having too much fun.
Okay.
You're reenacting the 2 minutes of hate out of 1984. You're literally Orwellian. We're dealing with the daycare generation. Why do you think college safe spaces now have crayons and puppies to cuddle? We're dealing with infants who learned that screaming was how you got your own way. Well, this is the adult world, snowflakes, and things just don't work like that. Oh, that sweet taste of liberal tears. Tell a lie, it's not.
So I guess this was the November 4th, post-November 4th revolution.
Oh my goodness. Post November 4th revolution. Oh my goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
you guys got that.
Sean, on an individual basis,
Go ahead, Dan.
maybe this is some sort of catharsis for them, but I'm just wondering, first of all, you've got only two audiences who are paying attention to these people. One is the people who already believe what those people believe, and I'm not sure if this is supposed to convince them or get them to be more dedicated and strong in their beliefs.
It's pumping them up. Maybe it's pumping them up,
I don't think so.
Take Trump down.
And if they're trying to reach the opposition or those people who somehow managed to be undecided today, exactly how does a bunch of idiot behavior? I'm sorry. The people themselves are not necessarily idiots, but their behavior is certainly idiotic.
Childish, at least.
Yeah, well, how is that supposed to reach people and convince them that their message is somehow
I did
valid?
see it. I did see it reach people. I did see a 2-year-old child, watching the TV because of this.
Well, that's child abuse right there. That's definitely. I'm triggered. I tell you what.
Oh my Lord. Oh my goodness. It's just too much. I mean, I just can't watch the video. I can't get through the whole video, Dan.
Well, sometimes you need a good laugh. With me, I like to turn on the old Bugs Bunny cartoons or the Three Stooges, but anymore, you just put on the fake news, the mainstream media stuff, and you just can't help rolling in the aisles.
Well, you mentioned the Three Stooges. They should scream, pluck each other's nose, and pop each other in the eyes, and block it with the karate chop.
Yeah. Oh, love that stuff. Come here, porcupine.
I mean, you had lower energy than Jen.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm not going to do my Curly impersonation. It's really terrible.
In Austin, our own Owen Schroyer
Oh, my goodness.
screamed for longer than the
Okay, here we go. Back to the video.
I'll get it kicked off.
You guys got that.
A handful of them turned up for 10 minutes and left.
And, excuse me, ma'am. What are you doing? Excuse me. Excuse me, why are you blocking our free speech? Got some sort of aquamarine character here. He's got a old school, type of a diver's scuba mask on or something here. And then he's got a homemade sort of megaphone here that he's putting into a stuffed turtle's mouth. This is actually happening. This is actually happening.
It's like a costume, but they don't know which costume they're wearing. One dude is wearing a sumo outfit. It looks like a sumo outfit.
Spending his $18 billion on, I'd ask for a
George
refund.
Soros must be
Maybe
very
they think
happy.
it's
His
kind of
$18 billion is
mating
going to
call to
very
attract a
well
sexual
spent money. Well
partner.
spent.
Let's be fair, they need all the help they can get. But seriously, you guys truly do put the tard in libtard.
That must be at some kind of monument. Is that in Washington or something? They're in some kind of government monument.
Democrat Party dying.
Please keep autistically screeching. Please keep calling anyone with a different opinion a Nazi.
You don't need to be videotaping these people. They're on Twitter every day with their white supremacists.
I'm fine
Please
with
keep
that.
having no actual...
You guys have audio there? Look at that. It looks like otherwise sane
Otherwise
people
sane
who are,
people
are just shouting their lungs off. And, I guess in
shouting their lungs off. And, I guess in protest, I guess they're just trying to tell the universe. Oh, Dan, do I have you? You're still there? Okay, yeah.
I'm here.
There.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! It's thoughts on the gubernatorial elections that were general
Well,
elections that were just held
in Virginia
ahead, yeah.
and New Jersey, the results of the gubernatorial race means that 2018 is going to be a sweep for them in the Congress. What we had in Virginia was Ed Gillespie, who is a longtime so-called conservative who really failed to embrace fully conservative values.
Right.
So it's a fail on his part. And so Virginia, which has just had Terry McAuliffe for 2 terms, for God's sakes. I mean, he is the Clinton insider quintessential. So they got Ralph Northam. He was the lieutenant governor. But in New Jersey, Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno, I think that's how you pronounce it, Guadagno, she lost to Phil Murphy, which was amazing because Phil Murphy actually promised he's going to be their governor. He promised a tax increase, but there was more of a visceral reaction of the people in New Jersey to Chris Christie. They really didn't like him anymore, and so they didn't want his lieutenant governor. Governor races can mean a lot.
They're like almost gluttons for punishment. You're going to increase taxes? I'll vote for yay!
But wait. Less than 2 years ago, or just about 2 years ago, Governor Wolf won over Corbett here in Pennsylvania, promising much the same thing. He is an uber liberal progressive. He's the only governor who ever actually escorted women to go murder their babies. He actually did this.
Wow. Wow.
And yet, less than 2 years later, we get a Trump landslide in Pennsylvania. So the question isn't whether or not the voters are motivated, because the turnout was pretty good across the country in most places. It's a question of whether they're informed. I think they've woken up on both sides, on all sides.
Was there a good voter turnout for the sort of conservative base? Because we know for Trump, we had a big swing from even like 70,000 in Northeast Pennsylvania swung from those who voted for Obama and then swung to vote for Trump.
Well, the turnout back in 2014, the 2012, whatever it was, with it's really early with Corbett lost it, because even though he was a Republican, did a few good things. He was good with pro-life. He was good with pro-Second Amendment, and everything else. He appointed his own father-in-law the first week in office and said the guy qualifies as on paper, and had to defend it. From that point on, it was all cronyism and status quo. Right now, we have people like McConnell in Congress, in the Senate, and Ryan as a speaker, who call themselves Republicans, who call themselves conservative, and who often say conservative type of things. But you look at, what is it? You know the Bible far better than I do, but I think it was Matthew, by their fruit shall ye know them?
Know them by their fruits, yes.
Well, I mean, look, you talk to me and I listen. And then I do two things. First, I look at what you do and what you say. And if they match, at least I know you're honest. And that is a big plus in politics. I don't care what side someone's on. And if they're honest, it's much easier to deal with them. But if the actions don't match the words, I'm going to go with the actions.
Right, yes.
Now, in terms of the general election, it was an off-year election. The Congress wasn't up, president wasn't up, just a few governorships. I look at the local results, which tell you a lot more. Turnout was up, okay? Even though we have all these gerrymandered districts, not just in Pennsylvania, but pretty much everywhere that guarantee the status quo for the status quo Democrat or the status quo Republican. There's a lot of new swing areas, and there were a lot of interesting races. I want to highlight just two district attorney races, Philadelphia and here, where in Schuylkill County.
Yeah, people are getting awake.
Well, in Philly, you had a DA who actually had to leave because he was found guilty of abusing his office and bribery and corruption and extortion. Just a terrible, terrible deal. A black guy proves that they're no better or worse than any other politician. You know, you don't vote based on skin color, you based on integrity. So we had a really decent Republican running, and a guy who was anti-law and order, pro-sanctuary cities, anti-free speech, really, really, really uber progressive, and he won. Goodwin won in Philadelphia, but that's Philadelphia. So some of the gerrymandered areas are becoming even stronger for the party that they've been set up to support. And Philly is strongly progressive than ever before. But Schuylkill County, now this is where I'm at. It's a pretty Republican area. We had an incumbent Republican DA, Christine Holman, who I know personally. I know a lot of these people, and she was the first woman DA, and she really libertarian views. I like conservative views, but I like honest views. So I voted for the Democrat who doesn't have much politics behind him, but is a career prosecutor, because Holman, and I'll say this on tape, and she can sue me if she wants to, but she overreached, she overcriminalized things that shouldn't be criminal in terms of urban renewal and whatnot. She was totally ineffective on the opiate crisis. And I know personal cases, which if you do want to sue me, Ms. Holman, I'll be happy to testify about in open court on the record, where because she knew somebody and had represented them in the past and was friends with them, they got a pass. They committed crimes and they got a pass. I don't like people who use their office for fear or favor. You don't help your friends. You don't punish your enemies. You do your job. So I'm pleased that she got kicked out. There are a number of places where I won't say conservative, where the constitutional candidate, the liberty candidate, if nothing else, the honest candidate who wants to do their job actually won. And there were some squeakers like Ben Nevius, who's in Berks County. He won for a judge spot, and wow. But in the whole, looking across Pennsylvania, there is a trend, and it's not toward Democrat, it's not toward Republican, it's toward competence, restraint, and proper governing.
Right. And
the only problem is that,
whether the person's actually saying what they're doing.
Well, not only saying what they're doing, but what they're saying is that they want to do, but what they want to do is what's proper. Legislative matters. That's not their business. I don't want a legislator who gives away all the power to municipal authorities. I don't want an administrator who tries to be a king. And I don't like any of them who are corrupt. In fact, there was one tremendous fail, and this was down to motivation and politics that just blew my mind. In Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is a major city in Lehigh Valley, we had a guy named Ed Pulowski, who's the incumbent, 2 terms already as a mayor. Really crappy job. I can say that word at least. And I would say worse if we weren't on the air. And I don't curse a lot, but I really would. He was indicted by the feds. There's a massive corruption scandal. I was working with Republicans, Libertarians, Independents, and Democrats in Allentown, because we all realize that if you can't have an honest debate, if the decisions are made in a back room among cronies and it's all for their benefit, then you don't have any chance at all for whatever your view is. And yet it was a tremendous fail. He won. He is back in as mayor again. And the only thing I can think of is that the feds delayed the indictment, and perhaps there's some kind of a deal that was made, because now somebody's going to get appointed to serve out his term because he's going to go to jail. But then again, you look at Philadelphia. We when I lived in Philly, we elected people who were shown on video on Abscam taking briefcases of cash. We elected people who are people elect who they like, who the name they know. Like I said, they're motivated. And on local races, a lot of the time, they really do know the candidates. They know the issues. But most of the time, they don't pay attention. They really don't know what's going on. They're just sort of starting.
What was it? Was it Thomas Jefferson or one of the founding fathers said, a well-informed public is absolutely essential for the sustenance of a free nation. You know, something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. But like, it's so important to be up to date. I mean, it's hard to keep even in, you know, to be aware of, you know, the big stuff. But of course, even the local stuff, it's even more important to know where your people are standing, what kind of, you know, people are running for your local positions of power.
Absolutely. And it was John Adams who said, and again, I'm paraphrasing, that what's necessary for the maintenance of liberty is a good people, a wholesome people, a godly people. So we need two things. We need people to start playing the identity politics of the past, not of today. And I don't mean the race politics that's coming back. You know,
you were just
you're Korean and I'm right. Look, now you're Korean. I'm Eastern European. Somebody else is African. No. You know what? I don't like that. What we are is we're Americans. Now, if we play that game, and we're good Americans who actually care, and we take the time to actually find things out, and you know, elections aren't the only way of choice. If you look at the NFL situation today, people are voting by walking. They're not showing up for games, and they're voting with their wallets, and that makes an awfully big difference.
ESPN's like your ratings are down like tremendous. Like, how much was it, Tim? Do you recall that? I mean, just totally collapsing.
I wanted to mention Marion Barry, Washington, D.C., former mayor who was convicted of drug possession, and now the city council is taking steps to build a statue for him.
Well, now wait. This is a great opportunity, because then we can protest and say we don't like people who rape young children, which he did. We don't like people who use crack cocaine,
which he did,
and who are corrupt in office. But if they want to give him a statue, it's history. You know, the thing is, I wouldn't take down a statue of Hitler or Stalin, and I can't stand either one of these guys in any way whatsoever. I would leave it up, but put a different plaque on the base saying what they really did. How many people these people killed.
Yes. Well, exactly. It's amazing. Did you see President Trump declare from the White House? They released it just, what is it, 3 days ago on November 7th, I believe it was. The National Day of Victims of Communism. Amazing. Bringing light to the fact that the communists have murdered over, they said 100 million. It's really, that's very low estimate. It's probably close to 220 million in the last century alone. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this. More with Dan Gray. Stay with us, folks.
Hi there, folks, and look at what I've got here today. My God, take a look at this. This is a BFR in 454 Casull with an octagonal barrel, magna porting, micarta grips. And look at that, it even has my initials on it, JM. Look at that thing of beauty, my God. Pop open the cartridge insertion door, and look at that cylinder spin. The finest revolvers in the world. That's a cannon. That's a cannon. Oh, man. good, bro. Pretty much on target. Oh, boy. Massive recoil.
We are back. Welcome back to the King's Report. We're here with Dan Gray breaking down so many things. Dan, let's talk about some of the things we talked about. Great socialism, and of course, some of the new events that have transpired in the last week or so with the jihadi terrorist attack in New York City and the Texas terrorist shooting. Go ahead, Dan.
All right. Well, what we were discussing is that socialism and communism is always portrayed as just a mistake in tactics. That the people on the left say, look, sure, Stalin killed all these, tens of millions, and sure, Mao killed all these hundreds of millions, and Maduro's doing a terrible job, and he's killing people.
But 3 million, 1 out of 3 of people, right?
Well, yeah, but they always say, well, we'll do it better. It just wasn't implemented correctly.
Yes,
and my take is this. It can be implemented correctly, and this is going to shock people, but I think that communism, socialism, it can definitely work, and it does work on the right scale. In a family, it works, all right? We've had times over the many years I've been married and have had a child that sometimes we all contribute equally. Sometimes one person contributes everything, yet we all share equally. We all get food the same way. We all get a roof over our heads and heat. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. When it comes to a kibbutz in Israel or a shaker community in the past here in America, you can have a group of maybe 500 people or less where everybody knows each other, where there is no permanent leader class, and where everybody takes a job. Just, whatever, it's your turn to do the vegetables, it's your turn to do the cooking, it's your turn to do the cleaning, no matter who you are. Yeah, it can work. When you get to a point where it becomes a representative government, where you have to have a leadership class, where you have to have people who are in charge, once they get the kind of power that socialism insists upon getting, right wing, left wing, I don't care. Once you get that kind of power concentrated in the hands, it could even be crazy people like Idi Amin. It doesn't matter whether they have an ideology or not. People individually can be trusted on an individual basis, on a case-by-case basis. Most people out there, they don't try and run me off the road. They don't try and hit me with sticks. They don't try and shoot me. Most people are fine. But when it comes to power concentrated in their hands where they can actually make or break somebody else, I don't trust any of them. I wouldn't trust myself with that kind of power.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. Even I remember talking to my brother, Justin, and he was saying, yeah, socialism can work on the family level, on the family level, on a smaller scale. I mean, even, we talk about frequently about the kingdom of God and things like that. And even, in a very free society, you can still have pockets. You can still have little communities that are gathering and are, associating freely. And they're deciding, okay, our community of, 100 people or whatever, 80 people, we're going to be more socialist. We're going to share everything. We're going to share our wealth, all the produce, all that stuff. We're going to do that. And they don't wreak havoc. It's just when, as you said, it becomes so centralized and so concentrated that then they have the power to start stealing from people, killing people, assassinating people, military, the law enforcement gets centralized. I mean, that's where it becomes very, very dangerous.
Yeah, in my community, we're very individualistic. We band together when there's a need and when we feel like it or want to, but most of the time, people do what they want. And if they're not infringing on anyone else's right, we'll defend the fact that they're doing what they want, whether we like it or not, and that's fine. San Francisco, where I've got some family living, they are very socialist. They voted it in themselves. They like it. They want it. Good for them. I'm all for the laboratory of democracy. If they can show a success, that's fine. That's wonderful.
Well, you've heard
and maybe they'll convince people.
Right? They're allowing HIV to be, enter into the blood supply. Oh, goodness,
that's a scary thing there.
That's crazy.
I saw a thing this week, a story about a restaurant in Canada that hires all HIV positive people. Now, look, I will buy a car from somebody who has HIV. I don't even have to know, or even if I did know, I would shake their hand. I would sit down in a bar and have a drink with them. I would be friends. I actually have lost 2 people in my life who were good friends who died of HIV back in the 80s. It's a terrible disease, but I don't care if Typhoid Mary washes their hands. I don't want them to be risking other people to prove some political point. If you look, my father's blind, okay, and my sister-in-law is deaf. Now, I wouldn't ask my sister-in-law to be a music critic, and I wouldn't want my dad to be driving a car. It doesn't mean that I don't love them, and it doesn't mean that they're not good people. It doesn't mean that they can't do all kinds of things, but
right.
It's not worth risking other people or making uninformed decisions.
Yeah, it's like this, Misery Loves Company. It's like, wow, all the, I'm just putting the whole population at risk like that because the governor is saying that he doesn't want to offend anybody. Well, you're talking about a very debilitating, life-changing disease that for many people is treatable to a certain degree, but it usually ends in death. And to allow that into blood, wow, that is just the epitome of guilt, shaming, and political correctness. It's totally beyond. It's unbelievable that can happen to the U.S.
Well, let's say somebody comes from Africa with Ebola, or what's going on in Madagascar right now with pneumonic plague. It's not bubonic plague. This is actually spread by coughing and by sneezing, which is very, very dangerous and very deadly. Now, I'm not going to say, well, they're black people and they deserve to not be discriminated against, so we got to just let them come in. I'm not going to say that they're from another country and they don't understand the rules that we have, and they don't have the same hygiene standards, and it's all equivalent. So, no, look, when my folks came here, if they were sick, if people who came through Ellis Island, okay, if they were sick, they were put in quarantine. They were given medical care. If it was something that would, run its course or be treatable, fine, a few weeks and they're let into the country, and it was a good thing. If it was chronic, if it was something that wasn't treatable, like syphilis at the time or whatever, they sent them back. And it wasn't a case of being mean to them. It was a case of being kind to us.
White, black, red, Asian, rainbow color. Doesn't matter. If you have a disease that can be spread by coughing that is deadly, my goodness, you should be quarantined. My goodness.
It goes beyond that, too. While in this country, a citizen has the right to be a socialist or a Nazi if they want to, as long as they're not acting on it and committing violence. if we're going to let people in from other countries, and I'm all for this. I mean, we're all immigrants except for the Native Americans. Come on in, but come on in if you believe in Americanism, if you believe in the Constitution and the rule of law, if you believe in our customs and cultures, and then add to the mix. I love that. I love we all love the food from everywhere in the world, but I don't mind the language changes and the cultural changes, the positive things that make us better Americans. I mean, my folks added to this country. Your folks added to this country. This is a good thing. But if they want to come here because they want to institute a change and make it like the shithole that they came from, no. Enjoy yourself over there. Come for a visit now and then on a short-term visa if you want to. But no, we don't need people who want to be subversive and destroy what we have here. We're fighting hard amongst ourselves to try and preserve that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have a more open immigration policy, of course, if you didn't have the welfare state, that would be a huge. I mean, that's how it was before the big welfare state. You had immigrants from all over the world that come here, and then if they couldn't make the wages that they would go back to their countries. Well, look, obviously, you have to have some vetting process for terrorists and things like that. But hey, not with this huge welfare state.
Well, I know that you came here and became an American, and my grandparents.
I was born here. My parents.
Oh.
Came. Yeah.
Okay. All right. My grandparents in one case and great grandparents in the other. The ones who did come, although one set of great grandparents died in a concentration camp under Hitler, but the ones who came, okay, they had to have a sponsor who promised the government that they would have a job and that they wouldn't get in trouble and that they would have a place to stay. And the sponsor paid for that or arranged that. So they came here and they worked their behinds off, and they made sure that their children learned English, and they made sure that their children got an education, and they made sure that they not only obeyed the laws, but they became participants. I have a friend from Mexico. I used to work with this fellow. He's a great guy. He was in banking and actually went undercover for the DEA to go after money laundering by cartels. So he was in fear of his life for doing the right thing, came to this country, became a citizen. Now, he looks Mexican. He definitely has an Aztec look to him. He speaks with a heavy accent because English is his second language. And this guy goes to every PTA meeting. He votes in every election. He has an informed opinion on every single thing. And he knows the Constitution better than 9 out of 10 Americans who were born here. This is a great man to come into this country.
Well, it's so amazing because you have like the record numbers of Hispanics, blacks, also Asians that voted for Trump and now are turning to support him because the open borders let in gangs, MS-13, and they're the ones that are ravaging the Latino communities. These people are the ones that are getting violated by these, by all these problematic people coming over the border.
Well, it's nothing new. I mean, I'm Jewish. There were Jewish gangs. Seriously, Jewish gangsters like Meyer Lansky and whatnot. The Italians came over. There were Italian gangs. They became the mafia. There were Irish gangs, Polish gang. You name it. You're going to have that,
right?
But the difference was that the communities didn't support that. They wanted to rise above that. They wanted to be legitimate, and they actually contributed to getting rid of that. They couldn't stay, if you met Italian people in the 50s, they weren't proud of the mob. They hated the mob for making them look like criminals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So our immigration policy with this diversity lottery and this chain migration and this absolute, until recently, this absolute unvetted, I don't care. In many cases, it really was unvetted. They just took people's words for things instead of checking them out.
Terrorist, just a week ago, he was on the diversity program, visa program.
Yeah, no, look, he came from Uzbekistan, and that's not a good place to live. I don't agree with Trump that we don't want people from Uzbekistan. Okay, he said even that country. Maybe we do. It
wasn't on a terrorist list. It wasn't on the terrorist list, I believe, of the 6 countries.
No, it wasn't.
And yeah, it was not on that list.
Now, the guy came here on this diversity lottery? Had he come here because he was fighting against corruption, or he was interested in promoting democracy, or he really believed in liberty, I'm fine with that. I don't care where they come from. We all come from somewhere. But
yeah,
I'm not interested in somebody who is a Muslim fundamentalist. I'm not interested in somebody.
This is an important point. It's
Yeah.
not, and whenever you say, anybody says this, it's, oh, you're a Islamophobe, you're a bigot, you're a racist. Look, the U.S. used to have, for visas, you had to say whether or not, if you were a communist, and if you were a communist, you were not allowed entry into the United States.
And there's a reason for that. Well, there's a reason for that, and it's not just some kind of abstract ideology.
Right.
The whole aspect of communism or of radical Islamism, I'm not talking about ordinary Muslims, the whole aspect is that they seek to have control of a system of every single thing that every single person does through a political means to the point where they run everything. It's not compatible with the Constitution. If what you do, if what you believe is compatible with constitutional values, great, add to the mix. Let's see what you have to say. Maybe you can convince me that I need to grow or change. It's a good thing. But no, we're not interested in this. Now, one thing you mentioned was that actually the 3 different orders that the Hawaii judge kicked out on immigration that Trump had put in. He doesn't have that anymore. It's a moot point. Supreme Court probably won't even hear the case. All right. The reason is because he promised that within 6 months, they would come up with an extreme vetting program that would help keep us safe. And now they have it. And it doesn't apply to Middle Eastern countries or Venezuela. It applies across the board to all the 200 some countries in the world. And that's fine. And he's proposed common sense solutions, things other countries do, things we used to do, which is a point system. If you have a university degree, you're worth more to this country than somebody who is a laborer. If you can read or write, you're worth more than somebody who is completely unable to do those things. If you're healthier, if you're smarter, if you work harder, if you have a history of entrepreneurship, if you can bring something to the table, it's great. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be perfect to come here, or that all of us here already are perfect. We have plenty of failures and losers and jerks, just like any other place in the world. But we have 320 some million Americans. We don't need to take in 100 million Americans who are jerks when we could take in maybe 5 million over the next 10 years who are great people.
To pay for the 7 billion of the world.
Yeah. There was a tremendous YouTube video where a mathematician explained immigration by using gumballs. And he showed with relative numbers of gumballs, which is much easier for most people who are not mathematicians to grasp, how even by accepting significant percentages, 1 million or 2 million or even 5 million a year, that's massive changes.
Which Europe has done, by the way.
Right. Now, it does change the local area that brings them in, but it doesn't change the situation in the world. You're taking a drop in the bucket. There are literally billions of people. If you look at communist-run China, or if you look at India, which is going through some serious problems. It's a democracy. It's relatively free, but boy, do they have problems. Billions of people in this world, sub-Saharan Africa, many places in South America like Venezuela, not good for people. It's a very bad political system that they've got going in these various places. And we could bring in 1 million from each one of these countries. And while it would change us tremendously, it wouldn't change what they've got going on at all. We should be the shining example. Right. We should be that shining city on a hill the way we used to be, where people want to emulate us, where they want to be us. And then we can lend assistance to help people within their own countries. You know, my solution to the big thing was Mexico. All the Mexicans are coming here. Like I said, I've got friends who are great American citizens who came from Mexico. But my solution is simple.
Possible. You're a Trump supporter. You can't possibly have Mexican friends.
Well, of course I do. I have friends from all over the world who are good people. And that's the thing that matters. But my solution is, if you're from Mexico, I would love to see Mexico get uncorrupt and get rid of those drug cartels and have some representative democracy that worked. I would love to see Uganda be a clean, safe place, or Myanmar, or you know what I really like to see, and I'm sure this one goes right to your heart. I would love to see all of the rulers, that ruling class in Korea. I'd like to see them in jail or dead, and I'd like to see the common people of a unified Korea working together. North Korea, they're the same people as South Korea. They're your relatives. They're good people.
Exactly the same. I've been to both, by the way.
And you know what?
Oh, goodness.
There's no reason why, as a unified country, that couldn't be an even better country than South Korea is today. And North Korea is, in my opinion, based on
the craving for it. North, are you kidding? Oh my goodness, they're craving. They all have the contraband, like South Korean and Korean dramas. They see how good the South, is living, even though they're brainwashed from elementary school to believe that they're like impoverished. They all know, the North Koreans all know it's so unstable there politically.
Yeah. Well, in terms of devastating regimes of human rights abuses, with a few exceptions in history, perhaps the Mongol invasions that swept through and killed so many, with maybe the Mughals, the Muslims who came down from Afghanistan and swept into India, with possibly those exceptions, I can't think of this regime in terms of percentages. Sheer numbers, it's limited, because North Korea is a small country and it's limited in its size and population, some 20 million plus people there. But in terms of percentages, it's worse than Hitler. I mean, it is worse than Stalin or even Mao.
Worse.
And we can't accept this. We cannot accept this and allow it to spread. I don't even think we should allow it to continue there. That's not the will of the people there.
Well, Trump is speaking in the same exact lines. I think he did such a great job. Even in Korea, we have all the Korean media talking about, wow, Trump is so amazing. Even though they were against him like 10 months ago, they're all like, Trump is amazing. It's incredible. He's just done such an incredible job. I mean,
I don't know. In the Far East, just like every other place in the world, it's all about appearances and face, and things change.
There's a lot of that. There's definitely a lot of that.
Well, there's a lot of that here too. It's not strictly an Eastern or Western tradition. I look at results, like I said. He said a lot of good stuff, and even Xi, the premier of China, who's now cemented control with that party Congress in a way that nobody has since Mao. Even a lot of these countries out there are saying things. They're going to help. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. I want to see results.
Well, 37 companies signed with Trump during the Chinese visit.
Well, that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. It could be something where they said yes and it's all signed up, but the question is, what are they going to do? I mean, if you look at, we were going to talk about some social media or whatever, but if you look at Google and Twitter and Facebook in China, they're hand in hand with the Communist Party, censoring people, reporting people. There are many companies that have gone over there for the cheap labor, and what they end up doing is losing or having stolen or just giving away technological secrets that, patent infringements. So is it a good thing? Let's find out.
We're going to have to wait and see. Those are the final words with Dan Gray on this morning's broadcast. We thank you, Dan, so much for joining us and talking about all these things. I know we want to talk about so much more. You got to come back. You got to come back.
Anytime.
Oh,
I like,
great to have you.
I'll tell you what, I like to say good things about people. I won't tell lies, but I will say good things when they're true. I've been looking at your channel, and I wasn't aware of it prior to fairly recently. You have a lot of very interesting guests. You're a good interviewer. You ask great questions, and you're one of the more informed hosts that I've ever had to deal with. You really know your stuff. You do your homework.
Well, I'm just a wacky guy with a crown and a camo suit.
I was going to wear camo this morning, but it's a little chilly. I just like,
Always good to see you, my friend. Dan,
Thank you.
Nice to have you once again. Folks, Great to have you all with us.
Adventurous Friday. It is already snowing. We can see it right now. Get outside. Hey, maybe you may want to even do some camping tonight outside. That's where I'll be at. We'll see you tomorrow, 5 a.m. sharp. God bless, Godspeed, and may his kingdom come.